Before you begin Anne of Green Gables, I want to offer a little context. Not to explain the story away, not to tell you what to notice, but to help you step into the world of the book slowly, the way it was written to be entered. This is a story many adults remember loving, but not always remembering how they read it. And it's a story many children meet for the first time and wonder why it feels so different. So whether you're listening as a parent, a homeschool family, a teacher, or a reader returning to Anne after many years, this is a Before You Read companion. Anne of Green Gables was written by L.M. Montgomery and published in 1908. Montgomery grew up on Prince Edward Island in a small rural community shaped by farming, church life, and long seasons. This matters because she wasn't writing about an imagined countryside. She was writing about a way of life she knew intimately. At the time, childhood looked very different than it does today. Children were expected to be useful early. Quiet obedience was valued. Imagination, especially in girls, was often treated as something to grow out of. Anne Shirley enters that world as a disruption, and Montgomery knew exactly what she was doing. One of the most important things to know before reading is that Anne of Green Gables is not a fast book. There is no urgent quest, no central villain, no race toward a dramatic ending. Instead, the book lingers. It spends time on conversations, on misunderstandings, on descriptions of fields, roads, kitchens, and seasons. If you're reading this aloud with children, this is important to name. The pace is not a problem to push through. It's part of the story's design. This is a book that trains the reader to pay attention. Life at Green Gables follows rhythms that may feel unfamiliar now. Days are shaped by chores, by meals prepared from scratch, by walking instead of rushing. Entertainment is simple. Community is close-knit. Reputation matters. When Anne arrives, she's entering a household and a culture where restraint is expected and routine is prized. Understanding this helps explain many reactions to Anne: her talkativeness, her emotional intensity, her hunger for beauty. She isn't just a child with a big personality. She's a child arriving with nothing, trying to secure a place in a world that wasn't built for her kind of expression. It's common to hear Anne described as dramatic, excessive, or chaotic. But the book itself never treats her imagination as a flaw. Anne uses language the way other children use safety nets. She names things because naming makes them real. She tells stories because stories help her survive uncertainty. For sensitive or expressive children listening to this book, Anne can feel like recognition. She shows that feeling deeply is not something to apologize for. She also shows that growth does not require erasing who you are. Anne of Green Gables is sometimes mistaken for a lesson in self-correction. But Anne doesn't grow by becoming quieter or more agreeable. She grows because she finally belongs somewhere. Mistakes are made, consequences exist, but the story carefully separates discipline from shame. Anne is allowed to learn without being reduced to her worst moments. That distinction is subtle, but powerful, especially for children who are still figuring out who they are allowed to be. Montgomery spends a great deal of time describing the landscape. Trees, fields, light on water, roads stretching home. Prince Edward Island isn't just a backdrop. It becomes a source of steadiness for Anne. Naming the land is how she learns to trust it, to believe that beauty might stay. If you're reading aloud, don't rush these passages. They teach something quietly important, that attention itself is a form of love. When Anne of Green Gables was published, it wasn't written only for children. It was written for adults who remember being children. That's why the book works on two levels at once. Children hear friendship, embarrassment, imagination, and play. Adults hear loss, resilience, chosen family, and longing. If the story feels different to you now than it did years ago, that's not nostalgia. That's the book meeting you where you are. If you're reading this as a family or a classroom, a few gentle suggestions. Let Anne finish her sentences. Pause when something feels emotionally charged. Allow questions, but don't rush to explain everything. Some moments are meant to be felt before they're understood. And if a child reacts strongly, laughs, cringes, gets frustrated, that reaction is part of the reading experience. Anne of Green Gables does not ask you to hurry. It asks you to make room for imagination, for language, for the inner lives of children. So before you begin, take a breath and let Anne speak.